just a bit. Going blue smite.
My thoughts behind that were blue smite because of how fast Nunu is. If I got into that issue early in the you know, or whatever.
I mean, you're not going to have your blue smite active till after 5 smite usage, so kind of
Yeah.
like 10-minute region. I probably would go red smite here. Blue smite's generally for if you have trouble staying on top of the enemy champions. If they got a lot of kitey champs, kitey range champs, that's when you take blue smite. If you got a lot of champs where you need like raw combat power, generally that means a lot more melee champions, that's when I'd take red smite. Because you don't really need a slow to stay on top of Cho, to stay on top of Leona, right? You just need combat power. So here I would generally go red smite, but blue smite's generally not bad for Amumu just because it helps set up his Q during ganks. So it's usually okay. Okay, let's see here. So you're looking to start bot side. Generally that means you should start top side and drop a ward in the pixel or something like that, and then come bot side just in case to protect against invades.
Okay.
Just as a rule of thumb, like sometimes you will get right. So if you're starting red, this is okay because you're usually worried about people in the enemy jungler invading your other side. So if you're starting red, this is fine. If you're starting blue, you probably should have warded top side.
Got it. Okay.
It's not a hard rule, but as a rule of thumb, that's what I do. Okay, so let's see here. Let me skip ahead just a bit. See how this goes. Amumu's clear kind of sucks on this patch. There's no like way about it because the Ravenous nerf really hurt his early clear HP. So yeah, most of the time you do probably want to start blue, but another path you can do is just red Raptors, Wolves, blue Gromp into Scuttle. He's not going to be very healthy on either path, and there's not too much you can do about that. He's just kind of the unfortunate target of the Ravenous.
Yeah.
Okay. How you're kiting the blue out is a big problem, though. Have you watched the 2 jungle kiting guides that I put out?
I haven't. I learned about you just like a day ago.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to hop into practice tool and show you something real quick, because the way you're kiting right now is making you lose more HP than you need to. And on a champion like Amumu that like really suffers early, this is kind of a big deal. Okay, so the thing is, number one, when you're kiting, you don't want to drop DPS, right? You still want to auto at max speed. You still want to get all your damage off, right? You don't want to take longer, or that kind of defeats the purpose. The way that kiting saves HP, if you do it properly, is exactly what you said earlier. You can delay the monster autos. So the first thing I want you to do, do this after the lesson. Do this for yourself.
Okay.
Come over here, set auto refresh HP, and just whack the monster, let it hit you, and listen to this tempo. Boom. Boom.
I actually don't have sound.
Oh, gotcha. Just visually then. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Get that rough tempo in mind. Okay. Now watch this tempo. Much slower, right?
Yeah, it's like half the attacks.
Okay, so what's going on here is monsters have attack cycles just like you, right? They have a set attack rate, and they have a set attack animation cycle. So it's going to go through its attack sequence, it's going to swing, whack you, and then go through its like ending animation going back to a standing pose, right? Then there's going to be a small delay before its next auto attack comes out. When you're kiting, there's 2 main times you can kite. Number one is right after it autos, right? Then it just follows you. This does not save HP.
Okay.
The reason is, like I said, remember there's the attack and then there's delay before the next attack. What's happening here is because of the timing of this kite, I'm kiting during its delay when it can't hit me anyways. So when it's chasing me here, its next auto attack is not ready yet. So this doesn't make any difference in terms of saving HP.
It's just like face tanking it.
Exactly. It's exactly the same rate of damage intake as face tanking it. You do get to pull it, which is nice. So that accomplishes the speed goal. But if you're trying to prioritize HP, this doesn't do anything. Now look at the second case. This is what I was doing before. Do you see how I'm delaying before I walk back? What I'm doing is waiting out that delay between its auto attacks, and then I'm backing off right before its next auto attack is up. So what that means is the entire time that it's chasing me while I'm kiting, its next auto attack is actually ready already. You kind of
Right.
concept. So
Yeah, it's
over
ready.
time-
He's just walking.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So each kite cycle, you're delaying its auto attack. Now, obviously, you have to fit your own auto attacks between this. So what ends up happening is, you end up with certain kite ratios. So this is what you were doing. You were kiting kind of 1-to-1, hit, 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 kite. So you're autoing at your max speed, it's hitting you at its max speed. You're successfully kiting, this is true, but
Just
you're not
trading
hitting
hits.
speed.
Yeah.
So what I want you to try, this isn't going to be the same ratio for every champion, because it's obviously dependent on the camp's attack speed versus your attack speed. So some champions, it's not going to be this exact ratio. But for Amumu, for blue specifically, it's going to be, what you want to try is a 2-to-1 ratio. So you hit it twice, back up. Hit it twice, back up. You see how it's trading exactly 2-for-1? Because each time I walk back into it, it's like a new cycle, right?
Right. It starts over with 1,
Exactly.
1, 2, 1.
And then if you want to like see the actual HP diff, let me refresh real quick. I'll just do this like it's a normal blue. So this is your way of kiting right now. Just walking back, kind of random intervals, right?
Yep.
Let's do this. And then we can check my HP quickly at the end.
Where are we going?
Visually, you can see it's about even.
Yeah.
Dying at pretty similar rate.
Right.
This is with no pot use, no smite, and just barely finish it.
170.
Right. And then this is if you use the 2-to-1 kite on this. Okay. Do you see how the HP diff is pretty noticeable already?
Yeah, he's at half already.
Exactly. So you're not like speeding up how fast you hit it, but you are slowing down the rate at which you're taking damage. It's not a crazy amount per se. It's only going to be a couple autos per camp at most. But yeah, you see.
That's still over 100 health.
Exactly. And when you consider that you can do this on multiple camps, you can save quite a bit of HP through your clear. One caveat is it's harder on certain camps. For example, Gromp is ranged, right? So it's really hard to kite this guy out.
Yeah.
You can still do it. It's the exact same principle. You see, it's the exact same 1-to-2 ratio going on.
He can't cast and run.
Exactly. It's a bit difficult on Gromp compared to on blue, because this guy's ranged, this guy's melee, he doesn't run very fast, so it's harder, but you can see, this is with your rune setup, so this is possible.
Yes.
And that does impact your overall clear quite heavily.
Yeah, it's a big solo difference though.
I'd go in with the auto attack first, just because it applies your passive and makes your spells do true damage.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but you can see some kind of not great kiting here, right? You're kind of walking out, you're losing auto attack DPS, sometimes you're kiting out of your W, so you're kind of taking more damage than you're supposed to and taking longer to kill this than you're supposed to, relative to when I demoed it. Sorry, what was the question?
I was just going to say, so just auto attack before I use my E, that way I get that extra little bit of true damage.
Right, when you're coming in up the Gromp here. It's not a big detail, but, you know, every little bit helps when the champion sucks at clearing.
Yeah, I'm all about those details.
Did you accidentally auto little guy there? I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I think you accidentally auto little one, but that's alright.
Probably. I've got a retarded clicking finger sometimes.
Happens. Okay, so just in terms of raw clearing, what I want you to do after this lesson is practice this for a bit. The exact same path with no leash, just like I did it. Blue, Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Red. Practice that maybe 5 to 10 times. You can record your HP and speed in like a spreadsheet or something. Just do it in practice tool. Work on it and then send me the final result so I can look over it.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like you're definitely use your E right away. I wouldn't F key over until you've actually like checked you're doing the count properly. So auto this, E it, and then you can look over. Because Amumu doesn't need to look. Okay. So you're checking on the lanes. It's fine. I'll rewind a bit later and check over on your other stuff. For now, I just want to look at your clear right away first.
Okay.
Don't need to walk around this bend. You can just queue from like. Fuck, my bad.
Q from up and yeah, farther around the corner.
Right. So you can just take this camp, walk over here, and queue. Save another couple seconds of walking.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. This is all right.
Yeah, I went too far up north.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 0 kiting right now.
It's tougher to kite red buff than blue buff. Blue buff has shorter auto attack range than red buff, so it's actually really difficult for a newer jungler to kite this guy out, especially on a champ like Amumu with really short attack range. So I don't fault you here too much. Obviously, ideally, you get some practice on this and learn to kite it out a bit better, but it's much harder than blue buff.
Okay.
Speaking. Make sure you use your EOF cooldown. Good. Okay.
Yeah, see how low I am after this when I go for Scuttle.
Yeah, at this point, if this is your realistic point in game, don't go for Scuttle. Unless you know it's 100% free. But here you should know Nunu's right here. He's showing up on your map. So there's realistically no way you can take this, right? If you head in here, you're probably dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of them I did die. I don't remember which game it was. I think it was this one.
Yeah, I think you're just dead. Right, and then you lose double buffs. This early game's pretty fucked now, right? Because Amumu can't clear that well without buffs. So when you're in this situation, just be realistic. Because it's going to happen. Ideally, you learn to clear a bit better. You'll be a bit healthier. But realistically, this is going to happen sometimes. Just don't go for the Scuttle if it's contested. If it's totally free, if you know the enemy jungler's on the other half of the map, alright, go for it. No problem. But since you know Nunu's here, there's no way this is going to work. Scuttle's important, it's not that important. Just hop over the wall here, take your Krugs, smite the Krugs, and get a reset. It's totally fine. Losing Scuttle is not the end of the world. There's even some challenger junglers who... Because there's some junglers who play weak early game champions even in challenger, like Evelyn, for example. She's also quite weak in River, and her early clear's not that healthy. So there's quite a few challenger junglers who just don't take Scuttle unless it's completely free. They'll just go a full clear, and then if the enemy jungler's on the other side, okay, they'll come take the Scuttle and be happy with it and back. If it's contested, they just won't go for it because their champion is too weak and they're too low HP to realistically do this. Because this is killer, right? Coming and dying, Nunu here giving double buffs. This is killer for your early game.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's see here. Okay, I'm not gonna give you too many things to work on quite yet, because you do need to get the clearing out of the way first. But just to keep in mind, the second big problem after clearing that low elo junglers have is that they just don't see what's happening on the map. I can tell you're trying, you're putting in pretty good effort to try to click around a little bit, see what's happening in the lanes. It's not enough. You're still jungling a little bit blind. I don't want you to worry about this too much yet until you've worked on the clear, because it's an added layer of difficulty, right? It's even harder to do both at the same time. But objectively speaking, your role as a jungler is you go through your jungle, you clear the camps, and you take a look around and figure out where to go, right? Where you're supposed to show up. You can't really make an informed decision on where to show up if you don't know what's happening in each lane. Again, focus on your clear first, but that would be the next step for you. Improving your camera control, whether it's click and dragging, whether it's F key. Because right now, if I were to compare this to, say, if I were coaching a diamond jungler, or say like a low masters jungler, what I would expect out of them is about 10 times the amount of map vision that you have right now. If you're clicked to lanes for like, say, I think in total like 4 seconds over this early clear, over this first rotation, I would expect 20 plus seconds looking at the lanes from a higher elo jungler, especially because this is a Amumu who doesn't have clear mechanics. It's different if it's like Nidalee, Rengar, someone with like really active clearing who can't click off quite as often, but on a Amumu you need to be looking a lot because this champ has no mechanics. This champ is you clear your jungle, and if you show up in the right place and hit your Q, everything's great. If you
Yeah.
don't know how to clear and don't know where to show up, then you know there's no way for things to go right. It's just total coin flip. Okay.
Sure.
Let's go through here. So you die. Run back out onto the map. Okay.
Let's find some friends.
Let me see. Did Nunu cross over?
Okay.
Let's see what happened right after you died. So Nunu comes over here. He takes this scuttle. Something I want you to notice is that you don't actually have to come over to these Krugs. I'm sure you came over to these because they're your only camp up, right? So you were like, okay, gotta go somewhere. I go take my Krugs.
Yeah.
What I want you to notice is that because Nunu didn't cross over to bot side, maybe he did, but most likely he just took Red Cook's Raptors, crossed through mid in that gank, and then took Scuttle, and now he's clearing his top side. You actually do have the option of just coming all the way down here to this Scuttle, and by the time you take it, your Gromp's going to be back up.
So getting that vision and then going to Gromp. Okay.
Right.
I actually think that he screwed me at that scuttle also, if I remember.
This one? Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, I think he...
We'll see what happens. Do you know the respawn timer on each small camp?
I don't know.
Okay, you know how in lanes, waves come every 30 seconds, right? It's always
Right,
that
yeah.
30-second interval. You need to treat, like, if a laner doesn't know that, it's detrimental. He won't know when to back, when to roam, like, all the timers are off. Everything revolves around those 30 seconds. As a jungler, it's the same thing. You gotta know when your camps are back up, because that's your golden EXP, right? So,
Yeah.
you should know exactly when your Gromp, Wolves, and Raptors are coming up here, simply because you already cleared them. So the timer, the respawn timer on each small camp is always exactly 2 minutes. One thing to note on Krugs, the timer starts when the initial big and medium one die, not when the whole camp dies. But in general, like, not a huge detail, just 2 minutes per. So, generally speaking, if you get a leash on your first camp, your second camp is going to be coming up somewhere in the region of 4 to 410, because it's going to be cleared first rotation in the round 2 to 210 bracket. It depends on the size of the leash and your jungler, obviously, but let's come take a look here. Amumu's obviously one of the slower ones, so it might veer to the other side. Right,
Yeah, so right
210
about
clear,
4.
right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly a 410 respawn on this, and you know Wolves and Raptors come up right after it. So when you're in base, right here after dying, let me find it real quick.
Oh yeah, it's
About
up
here. So you're exiting base maybe 325, 330 from Fountain, right?
50 seconds away. Yeah.
So if you imagine that you walk over here, it takes maybe 30 seconds or so to reach the scuttle. If it's up, you get there by like, say, 350, 355. You take the scuttle, takes maybe 5-10 seconds, 405 or something. You walk over here, your Grump's back up right as you get there, right? And then your Wolves and Raptors come up in sequence. So if you know Nunu's staying on this side, this is an option. Just coming down here, back into your clear. So
Plenty of farm. It's just not showing yet.
right, exactly. It's not showing, but you should know where it is because you took the camp and you should know the respawn timer. It's a bit hard to get used to this right away. I know almost every jungler does this just by their innate sense, like they have a rough feel for the timers. But especially if you're new to jungling, your internal timer isn't quite there yet. And even really experienced junglers, internal timers for 2 minutes, that's still quite rough, right? There's some leeway you might be off by a little bit. So what I recommend, especially when you're new, is the first camp in any linear clear sequence that you do, time that camp. You don't need to time every camp, but you know everything else after it comes up linearly, right? Because you're clearing linearly. So all you need to time is this Gromp camp. If you know this Gromp is dead at 210, you can just type 410G while walking over to your Wolves, right? So you know exactly when this Gromp is back up, and you can use that in your pathing decisions. Because it's pretty hard to path if you don't know when your camps are going to be up, and you're just relying on the minimap respawns. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, the first small camp respawn is going to be in that 4-410 region. That holds true for the enemy jungler as well. So if the enemy jungler does something like red Raptors into topside, you know his Raptors are coming up in that 4-410 region if you potentially want to counter jungle.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Okay.
Okay, so let's see here. So for one, I'm not going to say this is wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just that you had two options. And maybe this is the better one, maybe it's the worst one. You should just be aware of both options. Okay, let's see here.
Let's find some friends.
something I want you to notice is... Oh, didn't move. Okay, oh, it's there. Do you know where Nunu is right now? It's okay if you don't. Do you know where he is?
No, I just know that, you know, when I died, he was right there by Harold.
Right, exactly. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, that should tell you, because he didn't cross through to get the other scuttle, he's he may have gone behind, but most likely he's in here clearing this, right?
And he was in mid lane when I was finishing red, so he probably didn't do his blue.
Exactly. If you actually clicked over to him when you were... Sorry, let me find it.
Right about there somewhere.
Let's see when he shows up.
Come play with me.
Okay, right here.
Oh,
yeah,
there
based
is
on this
something.
pathing. Also, okay, this is going to be difficult because you don't play Nunu, but based on this timer, yeah, he probably either went blue, wolves, raptors, red, or he went red, Krugs, raptors. Nunu has a very, very slow red, Krugs, raptors. Very slow. That's why Nunu players almost never take Krugs first rotation. Like good Nunu players, they'll almost always just take 4 inner camps plus maybe a Gromp. If you click over here, you can just see what level he is, what buffs he has, and if he has just red buff, then you know he did red Krugs Raptors. You can also hit tab after clicking over and looking. Do you kind of see how there's nothing useful going on in this red buff? You're not really kiting it out. Nothing's happening, right? Functionally, you could be looking away and just pressing the buttons, pressing your key off cooldown, and it does the same thing. So definitely, when Nunu appears here, you want to F key over to your Echo, or just click and drag. See what's going on mid, see what's happening, if you need to come help, whatever. And also check out what buffs Nunu has. Sometimes you can even click him if you want to, and it'll tell you the duration left on the buff, just like right here. Just like you can see your own, it'll show his as well. That would probably show you he only has red right now. If you hit tab, he's going to probably have 12 CS. Each camp is worth 4 CS, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So when you're tracking, if he has 12 CS, he only did 3 camps. If he's showing up in river with 24 CS, that means he did all 6 camps. If he's showing up mid lane at like 330 with 28 CS, that means he did 6 camps plus scuttle into gank. So that tells you his rough pathing and what he has up, which also lets you kind of guess at where he's going next. Okay, so at this point, you should know exactly what path he started. Keep in mind, this also tells you what his respawn timers are, because you know he went red Krugs Raptors. That tells you his second camp, 4 to 410 region. Because it's Nunu, it might be a bit slower, and right after Krugs, there's going to be Raptors. So this is a bit hard to track when you're newer to the jungle, but it's a good thing to keep in mind for when you get to a bit higher level, right? Knowing exactly when the enemy junglers respawns are up.
Good small details.
Okay.
So let's see how much CS he has when he gets on me.
Right, exactly 12. And
12,
I think he only has red. Right, so you know he went red Krugs Raptors, you know he's taking the scuttle after, and then if he doesn't gank top or mid again, he's 90% chance coming back in and clearing this stuff out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to here.
Is there any efficient way to kite these things?
One detail is you can kite the medium one around the big one. What that means is you stand on this side of the big one, and the medium one will like get will get creep blocked by the big one, and it'll kind of walk back and forth. It's kind of annoying because Amumu has AoE stuff, so you have to stand close enough to still hit it, but you can do that, yes. Okay, let's see here. Don't bother autoing those small ones because they'll just die to the AoE.
Okay.
See how there's like a long period where you're not auto-attacking? This is lowering your camp clear time a lot. Make sure you're autoing at max speed. The one exception is if it's like gonna die to the DOT anyways, then you don't need to auto it. You can just kite out.
I think I was kind of torn between ditching that camp and helping him because it looked like they were on top of each other.
Right. See, here's the thing. It's tough. This is why jungle is such a tough role to learn, because there's so many things you have to manage right from the get-go. Yes, they're on top of each other. No, that doesn't mean you go. What that means is you click over and look what's actually happening, right? This tells you maybe something's going on. Then you click over, see what's actually going on, and see if you need to path over. Because if you're just going off of what's happening on the minimap, it's a wild guess, right? You show up there, maybe he needed help, maybe he didn't, and you wasted your time.
Yeah.
That E's a bit early, got away from the split. Okay, turn your W off while you're... Like, this should be off, right? It's not doing anything, it's just draining mana constantly.
I do think about that sometimes, but I'm not consistent with it.
Yeah, it's just something you gotta get used to. You'll get it eventually.
And then you get in lane, and it gets real bad, because
Come play with me.
you don't have the increased mana regen.
Okay, so something I want to mention is there's a decent chance you could have actually guessed Nunu was here, just because he went Scuttle. You came from Scuttle to Krugs up to top. He went from Scuttle down into his blue side, so he's most likely still in this area, right? So that's something you have to be prepared for during the gank, that if it takes a long time, it may be counter-ganked.
Right, okay.
On the initial gank, you didn't actually have to lead with Q from the looks of it. If you walked... Like, generally it's a bit better if you just walk up to them, if you can.
Okay.
Well, he is a bit low here. Like, here the chase stops. You can walk this way horizontally, and you can get on him without needing to dice roll the Q. And then you can save the Q for, like, if he flashes out or something. But to be 100% honest, this play's over as soon as your Yorick got chunked and backed out, because you don't have the individual damage to take this Cho down. You have, like, no mana, no red buff, no items. He's kind of just going to walk out, and there's no way for your Yorick to come help with this HP. So this should be functionally over. And chasing this is kind of just like baiting Yorick in for the counter gank as well. You just gotta be realistic. People are really idealistic about what junglers are supposed to do. They're like, okay, jungler should pressure this lane, jungler should help the winning lane, avoid the losing lane, jungler should do this, jungler should do that. But that's not how the game works, right? The game doesn't work off ideals, it works off what's actually happening. So you gotta be really realistic and just jungle off what's realistic and act off what's realistic. Realistically, you don't have the damage output alone as a level 4 Amumu, no red buff, no items, to take down a full HP Cho'Gath.
Okay.
Come play with me.
Okay, looks like Mimi came over, and maybe both dead. Right, and then at this point, they're gonna push this lane. Well, they should push this lane in. Nunu should have stayed to help push this. And wave's gonna crash, and your Yorick lost all that CS, and he's top lane's pretty much
Where are we
real
going?
sad for him now. Okay, looks like he has TP, so at least he doesn't lose that many creeps. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about why you're pathing out to Raptors here?
I guess my thought was just to go Raptors and then come bottom through Wolves and Gromp.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a starting point to come down.
Why bot lane?
I guess because I saw something happening here, but I guess after I hit 3 camps, it's going to be over one way or another.
Exactly. So you don't need to go too deep into this yet because it gets pretty conceptual and high level, this like pathing decisions, but you do want to start thinking about it to some degree. The way you path decides which lanes you're close to at each given point, right? So if you come out to this Raptor, you're proximal to top side and to mid lane for the next, I'd say, 40 seconds. You have like 20-25 seconds running from base, clearing the camp and running this way, right? Maybe even longer than 40. And then by the time you're bot lane proximal, that's like a full minute later, right? That's when you can actually come in here and potentially do something. So if your reasoning for coming down here is because you saw something happening, it's way too late, right? This is long over.
Yeah.
That's not to say that this is the wrong path, but that's the wrong reasoning.
Reason for the path, yeah.
Exactly. If you felt like your bot lane was in danger, let's say they're really low HP, they're hugging their tower, and you feel like they might get dove in the next like 20 seconds, then of course you run all the way over here and you start in the Gromp area. So you're right next to them during their danger point. If something happens, you're right there. If nothing happens, then you proceed upwards, right?
Right, okay.
So I'm not going to say this path was wrong. Maybe pathing to bot is good. Maybe pathing to top is good, in which case you'd go Gromp up to here. So just think about it, basically. Start thinking about that kind of thing. Okay, so you're pathing out here.
Let's find
Try to hit the Q onto the big guy. It's always in the same spot, so you can just practice it.
Okay.
Okay. Turn the W off.
Ah,
And continue. I do like that you're making an effort to click around the map, though. It's honestly already more than the average bronze player. It's actually more than the average gold jungler already. It's still not enough, obviously, but I like that you're making the effort.
Okay.
where are we going?
An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
So slow.
Yeah, that's this champ. Okay, definitely would not pad out for this. Let's see how it plays out. The thing with champions like Amumu is, by picking Amumu, you're implicitly saying from champ select that you have no early pressure, right? That
Yeah.
is what it is. That's the champion. That's the nature of the champion. And you're not going to be individually strong until you hit level 6 and you get at least like Bammies and boots, right? Something like that. A little bit of like some levels and some items. And then you're kind of okay. And then as the game goes on, you get stronger. You don't want to do anything that delays you from reaching that point, or your team's just like stuck without a jungler essentially. Like, yeah, maybe this dragon is free. I'm not 100% sure it's free, but maybe this is free, right? But think about what happens. Number 1, it takes a while to kill it. Number 2, it's going to chunk all your mana and a lot of your HP, right? So you're going to probably have to back after it, or, you know, it's going to make your clear a little bit difficult afterwards.
Yeah.
What are you gaining from this? Dragon gives almost no gold, and it gives almost no experience. It gives a little bit, pretty much the same as a camp, if I recall. And
Even in my gameplay, I've kind of always not prioritized dragons.
Mhm.
And I mean, this may be the wrong thinking, but not prioritize them unless they were fire or
soul.
mountain or fire.
So the thing is, the individual dragon buffs do not do that much. It doesn't matter, even if it's infernal, it doesn't do that much. They used to do a lot, and they nerfed the numbers down a lot to make up to like provide for Dragon Soul being so powerful. So these are scaling buffs. They give percentage increases, which number 1, percentage increases aren't that strong early game because they're not scaling anything because no one has items yet. For example, Infernal gives a percent bonus AD/AP buff. Nobody has items yet. It doesn't do that much. So you treat these as scaling buffs. They're investing in the future. That's not a bad thing. If it's really free, you can just come take it. It's obviously nice to get the buff. It's nice to get progress towards Soul. But are you even going to reach Soul? Are you going to be able to take the next 3 dragons? You know? If you fall behind as a jungler like Amumu, no, probably not.
And already sitting 0-2.
Exactly. You need to be a bit more selfish in the early game so that you can be more selfless later in the game, right? So that you can actually be useful and reach your point at which you're useful. If you want to be useful early, then you need to pick a different champion. There's not much you can do on Amumu, and that just is what it is. Right? So recognize what champion you're on, and recognize when it spikes, when it's weak. And when it's weak, don't force the issue. Don't try to like play as though you're not weak. You are weak. So get to a point where you're not weak. So what you should be doing pretty much every game is putting heavy priority on farming and hitting your level 6. Don't even come out for a gank unless it looks super fucking free, because there's a lot of chance it goes wrong on Amumu, and this happens.
Sure.
Doesn't mean don't look at the map, doesn't mean don't gank at all, but your priority is on hitting your level 6, getting to your first big item, Sunfire, and then you're kind of useful.
Got it.
Again, that doesn't mean don't look, because as a jungler, your role is not just clearing and ganking, it's also controlling the enemy jungler. So what that means is looking at lanes to figure out who's in danger, where's the enemy jungler, who do I need to ping back to help them out, right? Because your laners don't know where the enemy jungler is, trust me. They've jungled like twice in their life. They have no fucking idea where Nunu is at any given point. They have no idea they're overextended and it's dangerous. So as the jungler, as a weak early game jungler that's just clearing, you need to be the one on top of that, right?
Yeah, just watching and paying attention.
Right, clicking Nunu when he comes in so you can learn about his path, making like rough guesses at where Nunu is. Naturally, at some points in the game, you're going to lose track, right? You can't always know where the enemy jungler is. No matter how good you get, you're going to lose track.
Yeah.
So what you do at times like that is you assess the map state, you look at all 3 lanes and check, is there anywhere this guy can actually gank? So let's just pick a random map state here. Let's look at right now. Let's say
Mid.
You don't know where Nunu is, right? That's the assumption. He can't gank anything bot. Your bot lane's not there, right? So this doesn't matter. Your mid lane's full HP and at tower, so Nunu's not going to be diving at level 4, right? So your mid laner's pretty safe. But your top laner has no vision here. It's about in the middle of lane. So this is the only place Nunu can realistically make a gank, right? So this doesn't mean you know where Nunu is. He could be bot side. But there's only one place where he can actually make an impact. So if you've lost track of the enemy jungler and there's ever a state like this where there's only one place he could actually gank, then you light this area up with some question mark pings. If you feel it's really dangerous, then you light it up with like back pings and get your laner back out of there. Maybe you're wrong, right? Like maybe you're wrong. He's down here, your laner backs up for a few seconds, whatever. Like he goes in wards, he backs up, he loses a few seconds. It's not a big deal. But if you're right and Nunu's here and about to gank, it saves his life, right?
Yeah,
So
I love that thinking.
Yeah.
But it seems like in bronze, you start pinging and people are like, "Fuck yourself."
No, that's right. You're completely right. I know how it is down there. Like you'll be pinging and pinging. You'll be pinging for dragon. You'll be pinging ganks. You'll be pinging people to back off, and they just don't fucking listen. Right? It's so frustrating. How you have to look at that situation is, yes, 100%. A lot of the time, especially in lower elo, they're not gonna listen. And it's gonna suck, and you're gonna get frustrated. But look at the difference. If you don't ping, they die 100% of the time. If you do ping, maybe they die 80% of the time. But that 2 out of 10 times makes a difference, right? Because you don't need a 100% win rate to climb. You just need like a 51%. That little bit makes the difference. Those guys who do listen make the difference. So you need to do it regardless, and you need to take it as like you need to accept it outright. That a lot of the times they won't listen, but it's still better than not doing it because that's your job as a jungler.
Got it.
Okay.
So he comes up here, counter ganks, we die.
Right, and then this is looking pretty fucked already, right?
Yeah.
Already. Let me skip ahead to where we were, the dragon play. Is that a Rengar?
No, it just kind of looks like it.
Oh, the vision does. The vision time. Right, like at this point, you just gotta back off. So, could you have known this before starting the dragon? Probably, because think about it this way: you started bot side, Nunu started bot side, right? You both cleared towards top side, met over here. You both stayed top side and met up here, right? So by the time you're back in Fountain, Nunu probably took the base here too. He already cleared these camps out. So he probably based as well. He's coming back to bot side too, right? So by the time you're down here, he's probably somewhere in the vicinity too. So you need to be mindful of that. It's hard to secure Dragon versus a Nunu. He's just going to walk up and take it. So there's no way to contest at this point. And then, as you can see, you're pretty chunked out. It's hard to even return to your clear properly by this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys got the dragon. Ooh, you actually got Nunu somehow. Your echo kind of.
Yeah, he came over. He came over. We dumped on him.
Okay, you missed the smite. Okay, so it worked out well, but you know you don't want to go by results-based analysis. Like things will go badly sometimes, things will go well sometimes. You want to assess, was the initial play, like was the thinking behind it good, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I get that.
Leading up to this, I don't think it was good. You were level 4. You didn't have that much mana. You're pretty weak
low
on
health.
damage, so this is going to take a long time. And you had info that Nunu could actually was very likely in this area, and it's hard to secure smite versus a Nunu. So that's what I would be thinking there. I would have just cleared up and rushed for your level 6. Let's see here.
I should. There we go. I should have pathed that back.
It's alright, it's alright. Go here. Yeah, learning some kiting, and then maybe double camping.
Yeah, I think I mess it up here because I try to do that,
Right.
and then he almost.
Not too bad. Right, like if you're standing a little bit outside of the range, it should be
Yeah.
here. Actually, maybe it was too early because you're kind of behind, but once you have Bammies, it's usually okay. Just to save some time. Okay.
Hey, come back.
I think I know level 6, great. Do practice that Q a little bit as well, just so you hit it on the big guy.
Lead it out a little bit further to hit that big one.
Stuff like this is just like... Jungle clearing is kind of the equivalent of last hitting as a laner. You know how the fundamental of laning is that everyone emphasizes is always last hitting? You gotta be good at it. Jungle clearing, kind of same thing. It's PvE, so there's not really an excuse to be bad at it. And it's even more punishing than being bad at last hitting, right? Because if you're bad at last hitting, you miss the gold. It sucks, but it's whatever. Then you still get the EXP. The next wave is still coming in 30 seconds. You still get the EXP from that.
Yeah.
When it comes to jungling, it's not the same thing. If you're bad at clearing, number one, you're losing tempo. You're losing HP. You're losing more HP. And then you're losing both gold and experience because you're clearing it slower, so the camps are respawning slower. You're clearing the next rotation slower because your clear mechanics aren't good. So the third rotation's coming up even slower. Do you see how it kind of adds up?
Yeah,
it's
just
pretty damaging.
snowballs.
Right. So this is totally PvE. So this is the type of thing that there's like not much excuse to be bad at it. I would compare it exactly to last hitting, except 5 times, 10 times more important to be good at.
Okay.
You have the spreadsheet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The timer spreadsheet.
Yeah. Okay. So the spreadsheet's not going to be totally updated for Amumu because there were Ravenous changes and Amumu changes. So sadly, I'll have to update that in a bit.
Okay.
But in general, if you're picking up a jungler, you don't need to match exactly what's in the spreadsheet. Like, just to be totally clear, those timers and benchmarks are like a challenger OTP level, like a challenger one-trick level. So you don't need to be on that mark, but you don't want to be too far off, right? Because this isn't decision making, this isn't in-fight mechanics, this is purely fighting PvE.
Yeah.
So try to get at least somewhat close. Don't be too far off in terms of HP and speed.
Okay.
Okay, looks like you're taking a reset here. Do you need probably Merc Treads this game? Actually, at this tempo, it might even be a CDR boot buy. CDR boots are a bit unusual on Amumu. The boots themselves are really overtuned right now. That's why I suggest them. A lot of high elo junglers are just rushing CDR boots on a lot of different champs. Because after the buffs, those boots just give too fucking much. They give 20 ability haste right off the bat. They're a really cheap boot at a 600 gold spike, so you get the move speed right away. You get the ability haste, so your ult and everything comes up sooner. You get the summoner spell reduction, so it's unusual on Amumu, but if Tabbies and Merc Treads are not super good into the enemy team, and you're backing on a timer where you have 600 gold left over, let's see here. I think you have over 600 right after the Bammies. Right, 600 right here. I would actually preferentially go CDR boots here just because you want to be powerful leading base. Your ult is up.
Okay.
This is your time. You're finally level 6, right? You want to impact the map. So
Yeah.
this is a great time to just itemize for that spike. CDR boots are never, if you have 600 left over. If you have 800, get Tabbies or Mercs here, whichever is more appropriate. But if you have this leftover
So I see
600, right? Because
Yeah.
you're immediately going to start reaping this value because the CDR, you're going to use your ult right away here, right? So
Yep.
preferentially, I would say that. But I would also just check out what the enemy team is, see if you need more CDR. Tenacity, sorry. Because Amumu gets Aegis and he can go Tenacity in his runes, you usually don't need to take Merc Treads, but it looks like the enemy team's actually pretty heavy on CC. You have Cho'Gath, Nunu, Leona, so probably the other acceptable choice here is Merc Treads.
Okay.
Definitely don't be leaving the base with this much gold though. Get like either a cloth armor or a cloak, right?
Okay.
No reason not to. Okay, good.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Good. Okay, checking lanes. I do want to emphasize, like, yeah, it's not there yet. You need a lot more of it, but this is good on you. Like, you're actually significantly above what I'd expect from a bronze player in terms of trying to be active in clicking around the map.
Okay, that's good to hear. There's another bad Q.
Yeah, it's easy to work out. It's fine.
Guess there's just kind of an aiming point right there on that wall.
Yeah, definitely don't queue that, right? Because that's gonna die in one auto, and you can queue over the wall to this. So you probably lost like 3-4 seconds of walking on that queue alone.
Okay.
Okay, let's just tab through here quicker. Oh, we don't have hotkeys in fucking Windows Player. That's fine. When it's on YouTube, I'm used to just using JL hotkeys, but I don't think there is.
Yeah. I don't know how to get verified or whatever it is for those long videos.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think I need to update my profile thing to just recommend people to do Google Drive, because this is coming up quite often. Okay, probably just Smite, just to get this last charge out. The next one's coming up. Oh my god, he's on Herald.
Yeah. It's retarded. I played this game just a couple hours ago and I don't remember every detail.
Oh, don't worry. It happens. Okay, so something small. Okay, it's not small, but you shouldn't worry about it too much yet, but you should be thinking about it, is that you see how when you came out of base, you ran towards raptors? Think about what this means for your pathing and for the next minute or two of the game. You have your ult, right? So you want to finally you want to keep your ult on cooldown. You want to use it whenever possible for maximum impact, right? So what you should be thinking about here is, where should I path in order to use my ult right away in a good gank?
Bottom.
Right, but the problem is you cleared this out, so it's pretty low. The opportunity cost is very high if you go bottom and there's no gank potential, right? Because you have no camps here. So it is kind of proper to go... Okay, if you were a much higher level jungler, you would have considered this right here. Instead of going for these camps, you might have taken your back already and just taken Bammies plus boots and come back out this way, because you know you'll hit level 6 off these camps and then gank bot with your items and like fresh heal, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's one way to think about it, but it's a bit tough to think about like complex back timings like that. So you don't worry about too much. But,
yeah, kind of trying to see the future.
Right. But at this point, this is a little bit more problematic and more directly fixable, because there's only a couple options to go here, right? You can either go to Krugs first or you can go to Raptors first. Think about what it means to go to Raptors first. Number one, and again, I'm not saying this is wrong implicitly, but I'm assuming you didn't really compare and contrast the two options, which makes it.
No.
So, coming to Raptors right away, that means you'll be proximal to mid right away. That's good if you think mid's going to get ganked or mid has direct gank potential, right? So you can come Raptors straight into here. Otherwise, if nothing happens mid, if there's no gank potential here, you have to path upwards, right? You'd go Raptors red into Krugs. And what this means is you're ending your clear on one extreme of the map. You're all the way topside. You're only proximal to top. This will only work if you foresee that about 40-50 seconds out from here, maybe a full minute out from here, the top will be directly gankable. And if not, you're going to have to route down all the way or just take a reset in order to use your ult in one of the other lanes, right? Whereas
So maybe I should have went Krugs down?
Exactly, because if you went Krugs to red to Raptors, you're not really reliant on things really happening, because you're central on the map at the end of your clear. You can go here, you can wrap around to here, you can even run down to bot because you're central, right? So this gives you the most flexibility. Again, it's not explicitly wrong to go to Raptors here, it's just that you should have a reason to go to Raptors. So basically, if you expect gank potential or counter gank potential mid here, then you can come to Raptors because you're immediately proximal to mid.
If I'm doing this, I should expect to go on a Kali after this.
Right, so you'd be checking in Fountain, what's the wave state like, what's the HP, what's the mana like, where's Nunu, is there high potential for something to happen mid if I come right to Raptors? And the reason I know you're not thinking about this is because instead of looking after Raptors, you went right to red, right? So I know you weren't really thinking about this. So in general, just a good rule of thumb, if you don't have a reason to be pathing to mid, I would generally cut from base. I would start your clears on one of the ends and path inwards, and that tends to just give you more options, right? You get to mid, you can either path to any of the lanes, or you can path into your bot side jungle if the camps are up.
Got it.
Okay, so let's skip ahead through here just a bit. Right, you see how you're kind of stranded on the side of the map? There's no real way
that's
for you
I'm
to
all
do
alone.
anything. Whereas if you started topside, you could have even skipped Krugs, for example. If you wanted to prioritize bot, but it didn't look like immediately gankable, you could go red into Raptors, just skip the far side camp, and then directly into bot. That would be an option as well, just to get there a bit faster. You sacrifice some farm efficiency, but you're looking to use your ult right now. When your ult is down, prioritize farm efficiency more, because you're weak.
Sure.
When your ult is up, path a little bit more with gank potential in mind. But yeah, you can see that this is a bit dice roll. You don't really know. There's no real gank potential.
Sure.
Okay, so maybe this will work out. Okay, nice Q. Good ulti. I would say potentially you could have held your ulti a little bit for Echo to arrive to kind of layer the CC. But it's a Kali, so it's kind of fucky where she's going to go, so I can understand that right away. Okay, smite some. Make sure to pop a potion. Good, good. Okay, you got Nunu. Very good. Happens. Continue on this guy. Okay, not bad. Alright, not too bad. Be mindful, Nunu may just run straight back out. It takes a while to kill this, but maybe
Yeah.
I think it's fine to take this. It's probably like a 60, 40, 70, 30 type play. It's not too bad. I don't think I'd waste your mana on the Q, though, just in case something happens, because your Q doesn't do much damage, right?
You know, I've actually thought about that a couple times, holding that in case he does run back or something.
Yeah. If you had more points in it, it's fine, or if you were a bit safer. But because this is
Potentially a little bit dicey, it's not really worth that Q. Okay, so you're taking them back here. Looking at their team, not bad. Something you potentially could have considered is just clearing this out before backing, so you could just rush Sunfire right away.
Yeah, get a big bank and then go back.
Right. But this, that's not necessarily better because Dragon's coming up here, right? So maybe based on the timer, you need to be here a bit sooner. The reason I say that clearing might have been a bit better there is just because your ult is already down anyways. So, you know.
Might as well farm while it's down and then...
Right. Although the other consideration is you actually potentially could have, if you wanted tempo on the back, you actually could have hit 1800 probably without even clearing all of this if you just dropped the Herald mid and took Raptors just for the quick and then backed. That is an option.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
When it's a bit earlier in the game, if it's like 9 minutes in and you have Herald, you can be a bit looser. Like maybe you'll get a better opportunity. Maybe you can gank a lane and then drop it and then get better chip damage. But once it's getting to this point where it's like 12 plus and the plates are going to expire soon, I get a bit looser with my Herald usage, because there's not always going to be a great opportunity to use it, especially after backing.
Just so you get plates.
Right. If you come out and take these camps, it's already going to be like 13 something, right? Then it's getting kind of dicey. So I probably would have actually just dropped it right away in one of the lanes just for the
Just ran up to that side bush, dumped it, and backed.
Yeah, or dumped it here, taken Raptors and back, because you don't need to be in range of it to get the gold.
Yeah. Okay.
Just as an aside, do you know how tower, armor, and MR works based on plates?
I don't. I mean, I know how much gold per plate and all that stuff, but I don't know about armor and MR.
Okay, so this isn't relevant here specifically, but it's just a good thing to know. So plates exist on towers before 14 minutes, right? 14 minutes, they disappear. So Prior to that point, how armor and MR works on towers is they have about, I think it's 15 base armor and MR. For each plate that disappears, they gain a shitload of armor and MR. By the time the 4th plate is chopped off, and it's down to the last bar, towers have, I think, 300 or so armor and MR. It's a huge fucking amount. Have you noticed that, like, when you're hitting a tower and it's at full plates, it drops pretty quick, right? And then when you're hitting it's at like 1 plate, it just takes no fucking damage, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Right, that's why. So the important detail here is that Rift Herald does true damage on the charge. And it does a percent max HP damage, so it's always going to do the same amount to the tower, whether you drop it when it's full or when it's low. So if you're trying to chunk a tower down, you don't want to drop a Rift at the start, because it's going to come in, chunk 2 plates, and the tower's going to have Giga Armor and MR, right?
Yeah, the hardest, toughest part of the tower.
Exactly. So you'd want to chunk it a little bit first, take off a couple plates, and then Rift, and then you'd have that big true damage charge when the tower's actually tanky. So it's a lot more useful then.
That's perfect.
Right. That's only when you actually have the chance to push it, though, right? Most of the time, you're probably just dropping it for a couple plates and leaving. But if, for example, you come in here, you gank the Cho'Gath, you have a solid 20-30 seconds to push, you'd want to make sure to chunk a couple plates before dropping it. Just a small detail. But, right, you probably could have gotten a Sunfire fullback without even wasting much time here.
Got it.
Okay. Keep in mind, you're pathing to Raptors, so this is probably going to funnel you into pathing... Well... Krugs are going to be up a little bit after you went Raptors right into Krugs, so you could go here to here, or you could go here to here. Do keep in mind this means you won't have a linear clear, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Herald mid. Nunu's mid right now. Dragon's up in a bit.
And that's a 15-second on the yellow one?
Yeah, the yellow one's
Or is
about
that...
15, and the white one is 60.
Okay.
Not bad thinking. They're coming down here. It gets you some quick plates, gets you some quick gold and EXP, and then you can rotate down for Dragon while this is pressuring mid. Not bad.
Yeah.
You don't have to hang around like that. But do you kind of see how you had an opportunity here, right? This is actually what we just talked about. You could have chunked a couple more plates off on your own first and then dropped it. And then it would have gotten maybe
far more damage done.
Right, maybe an extra plate for you. Actually,
it definitely would have been.
Yeah, actually, I think it would have been first tower if you chunked 2.5 plates first and then dropped it. Keep in mind that the charge takes a while to go off, so you can like whack it a bit, summon it, whack it a bit, and then it goes off. So yeah, you actually could have killed this tower.
Okay.
And all the plates gotten first blood tower. Make sure to use pot.
Come on, pot.
Okay. Okay, not bad. Would have considered flashing for it just to be sure, but right. Make sure you're using pots and smites at the start of the fight.
Yeah, I like to hold. I hold flashes too long, I think.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll just go full retard and flash in and die.
It is what it is, you know. Like you'll
get this thing where like
as you play the game more. It just is what it is. Don't worry too much about that. I just want to watch the fight again real quick.
In my I always kind of I mean, it could be wrong obviously because I don't know anything, but I feel like separating her might have been a good thing because she's not going to hurt me like she could somebody else.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea if you're a tank into Macaulay. One small note here is actually if you kited her down into the Raptors, your chances of winning would be much higher. Because number one, Amumu basically heals off Raptors at this point, right? Because he has the Omnivamp on the jungle item, he has maybe some Ravenous stacks. So as soon as he gets the Raptors in there, he's going to be healing off of them during the fight. The second thing is because the Raptors are chunking you get your E off cooldown instantly over and over.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is like there used to be some dude who played like a Mumu top lane and just proxy a Mumu just singed, because when you proxy the wave, the wave hits you and you get your E and you just clear it instantly.
Just spam it.
Right, and if someone comes to stop you, you're fighting in the wave and you just get a bunch of E damage onto them. It's just a small note. maybe you could have gone for it, maybe not, but it's just a small note that if you're like fighting really close to a camp or minion wave and they're chasing you, it may actually be beneficial to walk into it.
Yeah.
Okay, you got her anyway though, and yeah, I think you're thinking of separating the Kali off was good because you can fight her. One of the few junglers
Yeah.
that can fight her. Right? See how even just walking here, you're kind of healing off the camp.
Yeah, almost full.
Okay. Ooh. Interesting.
I'm gonna give up this big chicken.
I honestly would have just gone for the dragon there, just cute over the wall. It kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Because your team's already in position for it. You already took the little, so whatever. No need to take this risk. Ooh. You die here? Smite it?
No, I do mess. Yeah. I smited it to heal.
Yeah.
And then I end up losing it to this.
Ooh, right. You kind of greeded out
Yeah.
for that little guy there. Just be aware.
Yeah.
Don't get too greedy. Take it one play at a time.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I'm dumb.
Don't be too hard on yourself. It doesn't matter how long you play this game, how good you get. You're gonna have those brain fart moments. It just happens. Okay. Good. Probably just look for the crab into. Yeah, you can leave this wave to them. Probably just look for the crab into reset for. You can even reset now, but you probably want the crab.
I feel like I should go for it.
A weird route around. This took like 10-15 seconds. Kind of.
Yeah. I'm just on a little trail ride. This pathing is dumb.
I wouldn't even bother clearing this. It's like it's not a timer where it's relevant at all to take your time off and lose tempo on the map to come clear this. Because you have your buy right now. You have a Sunfire. The like dragon's already down, so.
Yeah.
I'd definitely take it back here instead of clearing. Let's see what you do.
Okay. I'm probably gonna clear it.
Yeah. What I want to see is how much do you clear before backing. Okay, this is a big problem because let's look at how long you took yourself off the map. It's now 17:15. That's when you back off, right? You have 3,000 gold in your pocket.
Holy cow.
Let's look at when you could have backed.
Holy cow. 3 minutes, 3.5.
Okay, so
Right
there's this
there.
fight. And you can grab this scuttle real quick if you want to. So 14, right? You just effectively, even though you're spiking right now, right? You have your big mythic item. You can maybe excuse clearing for a little bit, but you have your mythic, right? So, you know, you kind of just took yourself off the map for 2.5 minutes when you're actually kind of strong. That's what committing to this clear means.
Okay. And I'm sure my thinking right there was to get that pushing, and then I was like, I'll just give it to Ezreal.
Right, and then clear the jungle. It's not like a bad line of thinking. I understand why you're doing it, but you do want to think about the trade-offs here.
Okay.
If you're like giga weak and you can't do shit and you just need to like farm and catch up, all right, and you didn't have like an actual item to buy, then this is great. Let's say you're on 200 gold here, fantastic. Just clear your jungle, your ult's not up. By the time you're done clearing, your ult's up, you can maybe buy something, make a play, right? But because you're kind of strong right now, you have a lot of gold in your pocket already. You don't want to be sitting on 3k gold. You don't want to be taking yourself off the map when you're actually kind of strong. If you take a reset here, you buy Sunfire. By the time you're out on the map, 20 seconds or so, you can grab blue, and your ult is up. And then if something's available, you can immediately go to it. If not, you can like clear and then break off at any point to go gank, right? You're in a good spot to impact the map.
Sure.
Okay, so instead, you can see you kind of just cleared, bot, and this is when you're finally back on the map, like 3 minutes later.
And I did go Mercs, okay.
Right. Mercs is fine here. They have a lot of CC. Who's their mid laner again? I honestly forgot.
Akali.
Oh, right. Yeah, then that's not bad. They have a lot of CC, they have a lot of magic damage. Even at, yeah. So pretty good buy. I would say just continuing off the earlier point, like, be critical of yourself about when you do this, like bad back timings that kind of take yourself off the map. Don't be too harsh on yourself, because this is the same kind of problem that happens in Plat and Diamond. It continues. You see this all the time. So don't be too hard on yourself, but do be critical and try to fix it, because you see the problem, right?
Yeah, definitely do.
Okay, great ult timing, fantastic, good job.
I feel like I do have a pretty good sense of the ult range.
Like your actual fighting's not bad. Amumu's simple, and you have a general pretty good sense of his stuff, so not bad. Make sure you're potting as soon as you go into each fight. But yeah, if you fix up your clearing and you fix up like a little bit of the decision making process early, you should be in a pretty good spot, because this champion scales well for especially in low mid yellow brackets. Okay. Notice how you're kind of running out here without knowing what's happening bot lane. Maybe there's dive potential, maybe you're, you know, you should know before you path out, because you're kind of just watching Amumu's head shaking, wiggling.
Yeah. I got lucky here and these things popped up.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is less relevant at this point in the game, but especially early game, if you take a camp, you can time the enemy camps too, right? Because you know it's 2 minutes, just like yours. So if you took it here about 1830, you could type 2030 ERA for enemy raptors. You can use whatever nomenclature you want. I just type an E if it's enemy, RA for raptors, R for red, K, W, B, G, you know, just something to know real quick, because it's often like same thing as with the Gromp. Oftentimes it's just too late by the time you see the timer, like the hourglass actually come up, because it's only 15 seconds out, right, on the small camps, and you're like on the other side of the map already, because you just didn't know until it came up. And like, maybe you can come take this again in 2 minutes if you actually know it's coming up and you have an opportunity. You can come sneak in here. Maybe you don't, and you don't come, that's fine, but at least you have the info there, right? It's the same as having flash timers. You have the info.
Sure.
It doesn't mean you go, but it means you know, and you
if
know
you can
have
die,
that opportunity, right? So this is not as relevant on Amumu, because Amumu doesn't really counter jungle that much early. But for example, you said you play Nocturne, right?
Yeah, I've played a lot of Nocturne.
It's pretty big on someone like Nocturne. Nocturne has quite a bit of counter jungling potential in the early game, in the mid game. He can head in there, take some camps, rush for his level 6. That's pretty relevant. Like, if you come in here, take the enemy's raptors at 530, type 730 ERA, you know that there's the potential to come back here and take it again. And if you know there's no potential, like you don't expect to be able to come back, you can just leave a little raptor so it doesn't respawn. Yeah, just this detail.
Got it.
The more info you have, the easier it is on yourself, because like making a decision comes in 3 steps, right? You have gathering info, you have tracking that info, and so it's not coming in when you're going out the other. You have to actually remember it. That's typing timers helps. And then number 3, game understanding. So applying your actual experience and understanding to that information. So if you're not gathering the info in the first place and not tracking it in the first place, there's not much to apply your game understanding to, right? You could have pretty good game understanding, but there's nothing to react upon.
Reference it to, yeah.
Exactly. So always be aware that if you feel your decisions aren't that good, the problem might not be with your game understanding. It could be preceding that in the earlier steps. And from the looks of it, there's quite a bit of that. You're not gathering information or tracking it too effectively right now.
Okay.
Let's see what's going on here. Looks like an unnecessary.
Yeah, AMF.
Like, you can see like bots getting dove and you don't quite see it. Like the information's not there, so you can't make the decision. Like it's not a bad decision to stay on here. It's the fact that there is no decision-making process in the first place, because you don't have you're not getting the information to like say, this is option A, this is option B, I'm gonna choose A because it's better for these reasons. Right now it's just I don't see the option B. Okay. Maybe time to just quickly back out of this. Right, there wasn't a lot of like thinking that went into, should I take this dragon? It was kind of like, I'm here, dragon's up.
Let's go.
Right.
Flick.
Something I really want to emphasize is don't worry about doing a lot as a jungler. Do what you can realistically do as a jungler. You don't need to take over the map. You don't need to 1v9. You don't need to get all the objectives. Ideally, if you're like insane and somehow all those opportunities open up, sure, go for it. But that's not realistic from a game on a game-to-game basis, right? Just do what you can do. Do what's realistic for you to do. And generally speaking, if you do that, you'll beat the enemy jungler out pretty consistently, because he's not going to have any idea what he's doing.
Right. Okay.
Jungling's like a give and take. It's like a seesaw. Like, at different times, you're going to have an advantage somewhere on the map, then you're going to have a disadvantage somewhere on the map, right? Think about it this way. Laners are stuck. Like, if they're in a good lane, great. If they're in a bad lane, they're fucked, right? They still have to deal with the 1v1. They still have to deal with fighting it out, trying to get their CS. There's nothing they can really do. They can kind of come out and roam sometimes, but by and large, if they're in a bad spot, they're in a bad spot. It fucking sucks. As a jungler, you're the one role that has the most mobility and leverage to go anywhere you want on the map, right? So
Yeah.
why take hard fights? You're the one role that gets to pick all of your own fights. Like, that's a bit idealistic to say. Obviously, sometimes you can't, but by and large, this is the role you pick if you want to go to the easy spots. If you,
I feel like a lot of times I kind of just get guilted or baited into helping, you know, and then I, like, oh well, he's going in. If I don't help him, he's gonna flame. That sort of thing.
Right, and it's like,
why aren't you dying with me?
you gotta balance that to some degree as a jungler. It's so frustrating in low elo, especially because you don't always know who's right. You don't know if you're right, you don't know if they're right, so you just kind of default over to it. It's hard, but just look at it this way. If you can't do anything in that situation, it doesn't matter if you go. It's just like, it's wasting your time. It's wasting, you have large opportunity cost because you're going here, nothing's happening, you're bleeding pressure everywhere else because they know you're down here. There's large opportunity cost if you're losing camps, etc. during that process. So you have to look at it like, if it's not a good decision, if it's not something that works out, it's not neutral. You're losing. You're actively losing things because you could have been doing something else, right?
Sure.
So just be realistic about what you can do. If it looks bad, just use your better judgment.
Okay.
It sucks, but that's this role. You're gonna have to deal with the flame. You're gonna have to deal with unhappy teammates. That's not a reason to play poorly.
Sure.
Read the map. Read when you're at a disadvantage. If it looks bad, just leave. It's bronze. Someone's going to overextend somewhere. Someone's going to do something stupid. The enemy team's going to throw. The game's going to drag out. You will have better opportunities. Take when it's appropriate to take. Give when it's appropriate to give. Don't take when you're supposed to give.
Okay. That's good. That makes sense.
Great Q. You have pretty good Qs, just being honest. You hit those things pretty accurately. Okay, make sure you pot up. Good stuff.
I've been hit by those stupid things for 10 years. I kind of know. I kind of think how they're going to think.
Yeah. Okay, good. QE the dude. Good. Okay, this game's going decently. Step through a bit. Let me see. Okay, what I want to point out is this split map state that's happening, right? Like, people are all over the place. Some people are resetting, some people are up here, you're back here. Okay, there's a rule of thumb that I like to recommend, which is ping or go. If your teammates are pushing up kind of aggressively, and they're... Okay, this is a bit split, but do you see how... Maybe I can find a better example somewhere else. Let me scale through here real quick. Okay, this is a good example. Do you see how your team line is all the way up here? They're pushing in aggressively. Yep. And you're coming out and you're intentionally going somewhere else. Maybe it's a valid reason. It could be a great reason to come out here, but you're going somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Did you ping? Let me see. No. Okay, so the thing here is, if everyone else is doing something and you're not doing it, you need to do one of two things. Either ping or go. If you
Okay.
don't do either of those things, and these guys die stupidly, you have to treat it like it's your fault, because you didn't do everything you could have done to prevent that situation. If you read that this is a stupid time to be on the map, everyone's low, we have a lot of gold, we should reset, reset for Baron, right? This could be the right call. I should just be farming it out, and these guys should be leaving. Then ping them. Ping that you're coming here, and that you're not going in with them, and ping them back, and do your thing. If you feel like they're in the right spot, okay, just obviously go. It's not acceptable to do neither of those things. Especially in low ELO where people don't know what they're doing. They are often overextended, they're often doing stupid things, they expect you to follow them in. If they die stupidly and you didn't ping them back, you didn't say, okay, I'm going to be doing something else, please leave, let's heal, reset for Baron. Treat that as your fault, because you're just trying to work on yourself, right? You're trying to work on the things you can control. And in that situation, you didn't do the things you could have done. You didn't do everything you could have done to control the situation.
Okay.
It's very similar to like pinging the enemy jungler in the early game, just letting your team know. It's your responsibility as a player, because you can't help in every situation, right? You can't be there all the time. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're over here, sometimes you have to be over here, and you just can't be there. Ping them off. Do something. Okay, so let's see here.
Where are we going?
You're on the way. Okay. Right? Like, you're routing out a little bit. You're not going directly to them. The Echo's the one pinging them off. That's good on the Echo. That should be you. You need to be the one, because you're the one trying to climb, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good that you're pinging that you're coming, though. This is good.
Ooh.
Do note that Yorick's not here. Maybe important. Great. Good job.
Pours on me pretty hard.
I think by that point you're just dead either way, so I would just queue back in for him just to end his thing so he doesn't damage everyone else.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have
stunning out of
noticed
it.
that Yorick wasn't there. What I would say is you could flip this scenario and pretend you're the Yorick. Yorick is the only one out. He took a reset away from everyone else, right? So it's his responsibility to be pinging you off, because people don't check the map every 5 seconds. You don't check the map every 5 seconds. Like, people miss things. I'm sure half your team doesn't even realize that this guy's not there. They just see a bunch of people grouped together and it's like go time. Actually, the engage was you. These guys were out here for a while and they were probably looking for a reset. Echo was even pinging it off and you came in late and then went in, right? So you were the one out of sync here. So number one, when you're in this Yorick's position and it looks dumb, ping your team off. Number two, do realize that your team was out there for a while. You were the one out of sync, and while they were backing, you were going in. Not only going in, but it's a 4v5. So you're going in a 4v5 when your team's trying to back off.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you end up winning this game or losing? Okay, it looks like a win. Because I do want to leave some time for like checking over the other VOD and some like Q&A. So because it looks like
the bad video.
Looks like this one's pretty wad. You're fed. Your Echo's fed.